So, breaking news coming here out of the NFL as Mike Tomlin has just informed the Pittsburgh Steelers that he will be stepping down as the Steelers head coach after a historic 19 seasons within Pittsburgh. Oh my goodness. I'm not going to lie when I say that I believe that this head coaching carousel in 2025 will probably be the most consequential coaching carousel in a very long time, if not in history. We now have 9 total head coaching vacancies. More than one-fourth of the league does not have a head coach right now, and 3 of those are within the same division. And first of all, just harping on that, isn't it insane that Kevin Stefanski, 2-time head coach of the year, John Harbaugh, and Mike Tomlin, both 2 of the longest reigning head coaching tenures in the league with 19 and 18 years respectively, are gone, and Zach Taylor for the Cincinnati Bengals is still here? That still continues to blow my mind, and it'll be a situation that I will never come to understand. But let's keep this focus on Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin. This was something that a lot of people that are fans of the Pittsburgh Steelers wanted. And it was something that, while a lot of people wanted it, a lot of people didn't expect that it was going to happen, especially in this way. The Steelers, as you can see here on this graphic from Adam Schefter, have long been a franchise that has been very, very loyal and consistent with their head coaching jobs. Chuck Noll had this job for 22 years. They then went to Bill Cowher immediately after that, who had it for 14. And now you come to Tomlin for 19. This will be only their 4th head coach since 1969, when many organizations throughout the league, like the Giants and the Jets, have probably had 4 head coaches in less than a decade, for that matter. So it's a franchise that has had difficulty with letting go of head coaches. But Mike Tomlin leaving was something that was even more unexpected in my eyes. Now, it does make sense in his term. 19 long seasons. It was clear at this moment that the team wasn't improving from a personnel or a coaching perspective, that things weren't likely going to be turning around, and ultimately that Mike Tomlin, as great as he has been, again, 19 seasons, no losing records for Mike Tomlin, which is historic and is why I believe that he is one of the greatest head coaches of all time and is a sure first ballot Hall of Famer. But when you consistently are making the playoffs and you're becoming one and done, that can affect your personnel and your roster because you're not getting very, very high draft picks in the draft. I mean, the Steelers this past year, what did they pick? Number 23 overall, when they were a team that likely had a lot of holes when it came to their offensive line, the quarterback position before they ended up signing Aaron Rodgers. They had traded away George Pickens, so they needed a need at wide receiver. The defense has a couple of holes that they needed to fill, but they just didn't have the draft value to be able to go out and get these players. And so, winning does have a price, and that's one of them. But also being reported by Adam Schefter was the fact that Tomlin had been thinking about this for a very, very long time, that he appeared tired on the sideline, that he appeared tired of just coaching in general and tired of being in the same situation that he had been, which, makes sense. 19 years is a very, very long time, whether it's coaching a team, whether it's going out and getting yourself, a regular job, whether it's being in a relationship or whatnot. 20 years nearly is a heck of a long time to be involved in the same thing within your life. And so moving on from this and getting a change of scenery, I mean, hey, look at what happened, and we're going to bring up this situation a couple of times within this short video, but look at what happened with Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints a couple of years back, a very similar situation where Sean simply wanted to move on. He didn't want to be in New Orleans anymore. He was a little bit tired. He was done with head coaching, at least for a bit. He went to be a NFL sports analyst for about a year and then came back and coached the Denver Broncos. And that is important right now because the speculation from the media as of right now is that Mike Tomlin will not be a head coach next year. That is what we are getting at. And it would make sense because he is stepping down and walking away from the team. But what's interesting is what could happen in the following seasons. Moreover, the teams that would have availability for Mike Tomlin to possibly come in and coach their team. Because, and we just talked about Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin stepping down from the Steelers means that he is still under contract with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh still holds the rights. So whether a team wants to go after him potentially this year and call him up and give him a deal that he can't refuse or deny, or they want to go out and get him next year, they're going to have to give up value for Mike Tomlin to be able to grab his services, similar to the way Denver traded picks to New Orleans to grab Sean Payton. And so that is value and a price that they're going to have to pay. But once again, likely to not happen this season, likely to happen more next season and be in talks next year. And that leaves a couple of interesting and what I believe to be less appealing situations for Mike Tomlin than this year's situations are. If you look at the teams that, at least for right now, could potentially have a head coaching firing next year and could be vying for Tomlin's services, the New York Jets, possibly, which is a interesting situation just because of the value that they have, especially on their offense, 2 franchise offensive tackles. Who knows where they will go in the draft in terms of having a rookie, or in Tomlin's case, a second-year quarterback. Breece Hall in the backfield. You have Garrett Wilson on the outside. They still have a couple of decent defensive pieces, but it is a franchise that does need a huge culture reset, and Tomlin could present that to him, but does he really want to deal with stuff within the front office? The Washington Commanders possibly could be a team that could be in the running. If they're not able to get back to form in their situation, being Jaden Daniels' 3rd year, could they potentially go their separate ways with Dan Quinn and bring in somebody that maybe could mesh a little bit well with JD and Mike Tomlin and once again establish a big-time culture? Do you look at maybe the Indianapolis Colts? If Steichen can't get over that hill and make the playoffs, and if Daniel Jones doesn't come back and is completely the same person that he was this season, he was playing amazing prior to his injury, could the Colts potentially be a team that are outlook for the head coach? So the bottom line is that there will be options. There won't be as numerous options as there is this year, and there likely won't be as appealing options as there are this year. But Tomlin will have an opportunity to come back and coach a team, whether this year or next year. The question is, will he? There's been talk about him potentially just retiring and going off into the sunset. There's been the potential of, big-time TV deals for him to come on as a sports analyst, which would be fantastic with the amount of knowledge that he is going to have, bringing in 19 years prior to that, being a defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings and a defensive back coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He would be a huge addition to any TV network to come on as a sports analyst. So it'll be interesting to see what he does going forward. And this is obviously a huge day. It has caused an earthquake, a ripple through the league, because I think that it was so soon after their loss last night, and what was a debilitating loss against the Houston Texans, which foreshadowed kind of the road that Pittsburgh was going down in terms of them being stuck. And with Aaron Rodgers now potentially playing his last game last night, Tomlin would have had to potentially go through, a big time rebuild. Pittsburgh probably would have looked to draft, a quarterback on day 2, potentially in the 2nd or 3rd round that he would have had to develop. And I'm not sure if he really wanted to go through all that, but this is still a day that is huge. It is a coaching carousel that has been huge. Both of the longest tenured coaches out within the same division. Andy Reid now becomes the longest tenured coach in the league, and it now is primed to introduce a brand new generation of head coaches potentially, which is the next interesting question that you have to discuss when it comes to this. And that is, who is going to be the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because like it or not, this is probably the most important head coaching position in the league, just because of how prestigious Pittsburgh has made it, just because of the limited candidates that have been put through here. We talked about it. You see it right here. 3 head coaches in 40 years. The Pittsburgh Steelers do not mess around when it comes to their head coaching spot. They know how to go out and hire a head coach, and they stick to them consistently and are loyal to them to build up their franchise no matter what. And so what's interesting is who is on that list. Who could come in and take over for a 19-year tenured, winning record head coach, one-time Super Bowl champion in Mike Tomlin? And there's a lot. The good thing for Pittsburgh is there are some intriguing candidates, and there are a lot of intriguing young candidates that I think would interest them that they could potentially leave on for the next 10 to 20 years, as they did with Noel, Cowher, and Tomlin. Mike McDaniel is a big one that I would look at first off. Solid offensive guru in Miami. The offense has pieces that could be worked through. I think that DK Metcalf has proven himself to still be a great wide receiver within this league. Jaylen Warren has had a solid season. Obviously, there needs to be rebuilds at places like the quarterback and maybe even getting more of a more multi-talented tight end and work on the offensive line and whatnot. But there are pieces there that could potentially be worked at. And the defense is much more the strong part of this team, which McDaniel has struggled with within the past. So we won't likely have to really worry about that per se. They have an impressive secondary, obviously have TJ Watt within the pass rush. So that is all solved and could be an interesting situation. I hate to say it, as much as I don't believe that he would be a great head coach, but you have to look at it because I think teams like the Steelers would look internally at what they have. Offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, potentially. I don't like how he's called for the Steelers the past 2 years. I didn't like how he called last night. I think that he limited Aaron Rodgers a great deal in last night's game. He shrunk the field for him tremendously. And when you're going against a very aggressive and physical defense like the Houston Texans, that can be very, very hard to get momentum going at throwing it down the field. But you'd have to think, is he potentially within this mix? Is Kevin Stefanski or Cliff Kingsbury, two other young head coaches, Stefanski coming over from a division rival, being a two-time coach of the year, are those two guys potentially in for the Pittsburgh job? They could both potentially establish a culture there, improve the offense, which is the big weak point for the Steelers team. Or, and this is my personal favorite to go out and do this, and I'm hoping that the Steelers give them a good look. Brian Flores from the Minnesota Vikings is a very, very intriguing choice for this spot. Younger head coach, has had head coaching experience, but also has been a solid defensive coordinator, as did Tomlin prior to coming to the Steelers. Younger, and has given himself a reputation within the league as being a no-nonsense type of head coach, and could really bring back some grit and physicality and just anger almost to this Pittsburgh franchise, could rejuvenate some of that lost energy that they have had since Mike Tomlin has unfortunately, lost, the past 8 to 10 playoff appearances for the Steelers. Flores is somebody who is very, very interesting for me. And if we look at his resume, which I don't know what he actually was prior to being a defensive coordinator. I don't know if he worked with DBs or was he a DB coach? He was a linebacker coach. I apologize. He was with the Patriots prior to that, but linebacker coach for the Patriots there. I actually forgot about this, worked for the Steelers back in 2022 as a defensive assistant / linebackers coach, and, had a solid season there before he eventually got hired for the DC job back in Minnesota. This is an option right here, especially being at age 44 with his youth. That is an option here that could potentially take over, and it's an intriguing option. And yes, there are plenty of others. There's Clint Kubiak, there's Todd Monken, there's, Joe Brady that's going to be thrown out. There's Jeff Shula and Halfley from the Packers and whatnot. There's going to be a lot of buzz around this spot. But the 4 to 5 guys that I just mentioned, minus Arthur Smith, I think are going to be the main points of emphasis here for this Pittsburgh team to hold on to that winning mentality and not losing the momentum that Tomlin was able to consistently give them for their franchise. But there's no doubt that the AFC North as a division is going to take a massive flip. You're probably going to see these teams, unless they get, incredible head coaches that are able to keep it, you're at least going to see for a year or two the AFC North be flipped on a head. And you're going to see likely the Browns struggle as we always have. Unless Zach Taylor and the Bengals can get something going and bring some value into that offense, onto that offensive line to get things going, you're going to see them be on the lower half of the league likely. And now the Steelers and Ravens, who are going to be going through some coaching transitions, and in case of the Steelers, they're also going to have to look for a new quarterback. they're going to be flipped on the head as well. So this division potentially went through one of the best and one of the most prestigious in the league to one that everyone is keeping their eye on as having a major nosedive within the next year. But either way, congratulations to Mike Tomlin on whether this is the end or not, what was a historic tenure over in Pittsburgh. The dude created a lot of amazing moments. He had a lot of very memorable teams. I mean, I even just remember in those 2010s, the Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown teams. While they never won a Super Bowl together, they were a terrifying team to have to go against. And Tomlin was also at the head of that. He is undoubtedly one of the greatest head coaches of all time. Like I said, first ballot Hall of Famer. And no matter if he goes somewhere or not, he will contribute once again to this NFL football community, either as a coach, an analyst, or even just an outsider looking in. He has done an amazing job, and he 100% deserves to walk off on his own terms. And now it's just going to be really interesting at what goes on moving forward for him and the Steelers organization. But with that, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. What did you think about this announcement from Mike Tomlin? What do you think the Steelers are potentially going to do? Where will they look? Who will be the candidates? And who could potentially be the next head coach, the fourth head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 40 years here? This is a massive, groundbreaking day for the NFL. A major shift within the league. And this next season is going to be really interesting to see how all of these franchises shape up. So let me know about that all down below in the comments section, as well as leaving a like on the video, sharing this with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those ads are going to be down below. We're on all of those social medias. You'll get to see my latest reactions to breaking news within the NBA, the NFL, and combat sports, and you will never miss whenever the podcast decides to upload an episode. And without further ado, guys, that's all that I have for you guys today. I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Stay tuned for a lot more content coming forward, and peace.